Welcome back to Prime Sports Media. My name is Andrew Hernandez, and today we'll be breaking down some of the Week 3 matchups for the high school football season. We're going to kick things off in the Big Northern Conference. Our first game is a pair of 2-0 teams, and that is the Oregon Hawks and the Byron Tigers. Oregon's coming off a 40-8 shutout win over Rockford Lutheran. Byron's coming off a 28-7 win over Dixon this past Friday night. So for Oregon, they're coming in 2-0 for the first time since 2011. Byron, we knew they were going to be 2-0 by the end of week 2, but also going into this game for Oregon, this is going to be a really tough test going against a really good Byron team if they want to prove that they can hang with anyone at the top of the conference as well. So this game for Oregon will be a huge test going against a really good Byron team as well. So in this matchup, I'd love to see a close one as well. But, I think a lot of people are going to have Byron win this one or pulling away with this one as well. So I think I'm going to have Byron winning it in Byron fashion because I knew week 1 from week 1, week 2, Dixon, they are the only team in the conference that didn't get blew out by Byron, but I had Byron, earlier this year, having them winning the conference and probably going to the state title game, but we never know what's going to happen once the postseason hits. But that's not here yet. But we'll see what happens in this game. But also for our next opponent, our next game we'll be talking about is 1-1 Dixon and 0-2 Rock Falls. So Rock Falls also coming off a loss where they lost to North Boone by 7, but the Rockets did click in the second half, played really well in the second half. A couple key players that played really well, like the mentioned Logan Thome, also played a big role for that team. That team in the second half. Philip Griffin Jr., also a sophomore that played a big role for the Rockets as well on their little comeback they had versus North Boone as well. But this game for Rock Falls, they're going against a really good physical team in Dixon. Dixon the last 2 years, as a lot of people know, they finished 8-1 the regular season. Last year, they made it to the quarterfinals last year in Class 4A. But this Dixon team, I know they got a lot of big expectations in them, but a lot of big expectations, going into the season. So I think this game, I'm going to have Dixon win this one as well. Our next game in the Big Northern Conference is 0-2 Rockford Lutheran and 1-1 Stillman Valley. Now Lutheran's coming off a 48-8 shutout against Oregon, now sitting at 0-2. Stillman Valley are coming off a 14-7 further win over Genoa Kingston this past week. So both teams are, it was a really good matchup between GK and Stillman as well. So this game for Lutheran, they have to win this one in order to keep playoff hopes. But I know Lutheran this year, they got a new head coach in Don Lee, and sometimes with a new head coach, it can also lead to having ups and downs throughout the season as well. So we'll see what happens Friday night up in Stillman. So our next matchup in the Big Northern Conference out of the 4 conference games is 0-2 a pair of 0-2 teams. That'll be the Genoa Kingston Cogs and the Winnebago Indians. So Winnebago last week played non-conference as well, played a non-conference game. They went up to Wisconsin to take on Clinton out of Wisconsin as well. Genoa Kingston are coming off a 14-7 loss over Stillman Valley this past week. So this game, whoever wins this game will have to keep their playoff hopes alive this game. So I think this one will be a great one to watch between both Winnebago and Genoa Kingston. So our next non-conference matchup will be North Boone going in 2-0 taking on Peru St. Bede. So North Boone's coming off a win over Rock Falls, and then St. Bede coming off a 35-0 shutout over Eureka. This matchup, North Boone looking to keep their little 3-0 streak alive against Peru St. Bede down in Peru. Peru St. Bede also playing a non-conference game as well. So this game, I'm probably going to have to go with either side. I think it's going to be a good one to watch. So next up, we go to our non-conference matchups in the Interstate 8. So we got 1-1 Lena Winslow taking on 2-0 Rochelle. So Lee Win is coming off a 14-38 loss to Stockton. Rochelle's coming off a 28-18 win over Chicago King last week. So this one is going to be a good one. So Lena Winslow going in as the underdogs in this game. So for Lena, if they win, it'll be the third time that we had a small school beat a bigger school. We like to mention that we have two schools they're at the same level as Lena, have also defeated bigger schools. In 2023, Sterling Newman defeated Rock Island, and last year Morrison also defeated Galesburg as well. So I know the Newman one. Hearing about that, I knew that was for both programs. I know for the Newman one, it was actually the biggest win or the biggest school they've beaten in their school history. And then Morrison, I think ever since I followed, I think this is the biggest school that I think they've played was Galesburg. So I think Galesburg's either a 4A, 5A school in football are at that size. So both Rochelle and Lena, both coming off a state runner-up run and a quarterfinal appearance last year. So with the way they've played last year and the way they're playing going into this season, a lot of people are hoping for. Hopefully this one is going to be a fun one to watch on Friday night up in Rochelle. So our next non-conference opponents is we got Monahan Seymour coming in 0-2 against 1-1 Sycamore. So Sycamore's coming off a 20-21 loss to Moline last week down in Moline. Monahan Seymour out of the Apollo Conference. Also coming off a 14-33 loss to Morris, another team in the Interstate Conference. So for Sycamore, they're looking to have a bounce-back win over them. And then our next matchup out of the Interstate will be 2-0 Canelan versus 1-1 DeKalb. Both teams coming off a win. So Canelan coming off a close one as they defeated Lemont 42-37, and DeKalb's coming off a 26-28. Well, not a 26-28, but 26-8 win over Chicago Phillips last week up in DeKalb as well. So now we go out west in the Western Big Six. So the first Western Big Six matchup we have is 1-1 Alleman taking on 1-1 Quincy. So Quincy coming off a 33-7 win over Alton, and then Alleman coming off a 14-32 loss to Dwight. So for Alleman, the Pioneers, this is their first Western Big Six conference game against Quincy, their first one. So out of their first year in the West, their first year back, they kind of proved first to White that they can compete with anybody. So with the new look for Alleman, it's basically, we come back to having a varsity team with a new attitude. I kind of like the way they've played this past week. They played, week one, they got a huge win. The first win back since the first win in, I believe, 3 years. Because the last one they had was in 2022, I mean. Their last time they had a varsity team was in 2022. So for Alleman, this will be a really tough test going against a really good Quincy team. And I think, the Pioneers can live up to the test as well on Friday night against Quincy on the road. So next up, we have 1-1 Geneseo versus 0-2 Rock Island. So Rock Island coming off the loss to Dunlap. Geneseo coming off a huge win over Davenport Assumption. Coach Furlong's alma mater. So Geneseo. So most of the Western Big Six, except for Rock Island and United Township, are also going in with a 2-0 and 0-2 record in the conference play. So we'll talk about United Township next, but we're gonna focus now on the Rock Island Geneseo matchup. So for Geneseo, they played Coach Furlong's Matt Furlong's alma mater in Davenport Assumption. If you guys don't know, Coach Furlong entering his second year at Geneseo, also originally from the Quad, also grew up in the Quad Cities, played for Assumption that's in Davenport. Coached at Cary Grove for the Trojans there. He was part of as a defense coordinator, as he also was part of some of their coaching was part of their coach staff when they went to state back in 2023 when they won and shocked the state, defeating East St. Louis. So Geneseo last year made some strides last year as they went all the way to the second round in Class 4A as well. So Geneseo, I got them probably winning this one versus Rock Island. So next up, we have United Township and Galesburg. So United Township, also a team going in the conference play 2-0 in the Western Big Six. Galesburg going in 1-1, coming off a win versus Limestone and so United Township, I got them winning this matchup as well over Galesburg in a shutout. So we saved the best one, the conference play, for last. And I think the best one is going to be in Sterling between the 1-1 Moline Maroons and the 1-1 Golden Warriors. So for Sterling last week, they actually did click on both the offense-defensive side, blowing out Irvin Prep 47-0 after coming off a loss to Metamora in week 1. Moline had a close one, 21-20 win in overtime versus Sycamore. So I think this matchup is going to be a good one for both sides as they go into this game. So this one I think is going to be a close one, but I'd like to see whoever gets the win as well. So those are the matchups. So for the Western Big Six, I like to mention that I think this year going in with the Western Big Six, I think there was a lot of questions saying that the conference is going to be open. A conference title, whoever wins it is going to be open. So Sterling's a favorite, Moline's a favorite, United Township, they're going to be a favorites to win it. I think those are going to be the top three. Or Geneseo, probably the top four. That I think as we go into early the season, unless Alleman makes a jump, but we'll find out. And comment below who you think is going to win this Friday night, and we'll talk about next week's games as we go into week 4 next week. And our next up, we'll be talking about the Three Rivers and NUIC as well. I'll make sure to have that out either sometime before Friday. And I know we have one Saturday game as well out of the Three Rivers, and also we'll talk about those games. The 4 out of the NUIC and the 12 out of the Three Rivers Conference. So we'll have them out, and also have a great night.